In the freezing winter of 1934, the American railroad industry was reeling. The Great Depression had absolutely gutted the nation's wealth, snapping budgets and leaving basic rail maintenance severely neglected. On top of the economic collapse, they were staring down a brutal existential threat. Automobiles and early commercial airplanes were rapidly emerging, promising a sleeker, faster way for people to travel. Against that backdrop, the standard steam engines of the Victorian era looked completely outdated. The public increasingly saw these massive machines as slow, uncomfortable, and overwhelmingly dirty, spewing soot over everything they passed. Inside the executive boardrooms, railroad leaders faced a hard truth. They knew diesel and electric locomotives would eventually take over, but the New York Central Railroad simply could not afford to scrap their massive existing fleet of steam engines. Railroad executives saw the writing on the wall. To stay relevant, they had to transform transportation into an experience. By adopting Art Deco as a practical solution to a grim marketing reality, they used the aesthetic of progress to mask their continued reliance on an aging fleet. Their solution was bold. The New York Central took the pride of their fleet, a standard, gritty Hudson 5344 boiler, and decided to completely mask it. At the West Albany shops, engineers wrapped the locomotive in a seamless gunmetal gray shell, covering everything from the sandboxes to the exterior piping. During its official press reveal in December 1934, stunned onlookers stood in the freezing snow, staring at a machine resembling a gleaming silver bullet. The company named this creation the Commodore Vanderbilt. By invoking their founder, Cornelius Vanderbilt, they linked the reliability of the Gilded Age with the perceived speed of the new century. By encasing their flagship Hudson in gunmetal gray, the New York Central effectively rebranded a 19th century machine as a ride to the stars. The engineers backed up the new look with science. Working entirely without computers, they ran rigorous wind tunnel tests at the Case School of Applied Science, aiming to cut air resistance by double-digit percentages at 80 miles per hour. This diagram shows the core mechanics of a steam engine. A fire inside the firebox heats a water tank, turning that water into highly pressurized steam. That steam is then pushed directly into the cylinders, driving the pistons back and forth to physically turn the heavy iron wheels. But wrapping that active boiler inside a cosmetic shell created a terrifying flaw. The enclosure trapped the massive thermal energy generated by the fire, creating a severe overheating hazard. If the fire got too hot and the steam ran dry inside that tightly enclosed casing, the entire machine was at risk of exploding. In their desperation to look like the future, the designers actively endangered the raw physics of the machine, creating a gorgeous but potentially lethal trap. For the passengers, however, the experience was flawless. Vanderbilt's cars were fully air-conditioned, an innovation that finally sealed riders away from the deafening noise and dirty soot of the steam era. Inside, designer Henry Dreyfuss curated an atmosphere identical to a high-end Manhattan hotel. The cars featured brushed chrome, exotic woods, leather upholstery, and hidden recessed lighting. The dining car maintained this refinement, serving multi-course meals on heavy silver and fine china as the Hudson hammered across the Mohawk Valley at 80 miles per hour. For a few golden years, the railroad successfully marketed this illusion, selling a frictionless lifestyle that was entirely powered by a gritty coal furnace. The hype eventually hit a brick wall when the enclosed streamlining proved to be a total maintenance nightmare for the crews. Mechanics had to painstakingly remove the massive exterior panels just to do routine wrenching. For a railroad built on tight schedules, those inefficiencies bled their bottom line. In 1938, a streamliner stalled on the main line, and the Commodore, operating behind it, rounded a curve on wet rails and couldn't stop in time. The resulting crash shattered the public's confidence in the design. Regardless of the futuristic chrome, the Commodore was still bound by the physical limits of 1930s braking distances and human reaction times. The final blow arrived with America's entry into World War II. The nation's priorities shifted toward rugged reliability, abandoning Art Deco luxury for pure military utility. In 1945, the Central quietly ripped the shell off, exposing the traditional engine underneath. Luxury perks were phased out, and by 1953, As diesel took over the industry, the Bear engine was sold for scrap. The Commodore Vanderbilt was a beautiful, desperate mask. It proved that you can dress an outdated machine up in chrome, but you can never outdesign true mechanical obsolescence.